I was taught that honesty wasn't just a virtue, it was a beacon. It was held high, practiced, admired, expected even. Not just in what you said, but how you showed up, consistently. Not just for others, but for yourself. There was something formative in that. Even if I didn't fully appreciate or understand it at the time, there was safety in it, structure. It was something that shaped me. I now realize how rare that is and how foundational it was. Because in the way we live out here, honesty is not always rewarded, but still, it's essential. David Whyte says in his poem, Honesty, honesty is reached through the doorway of grief and loss. That's the tension. Honesty isn't always light. Sometimes it arrives heavy, carrying what we'd rather avoid, but that's why it's sacred. Because to be honest is to be alive. Not polished, not perfect, just willing to see what's real, what's unfinished, what's out of sync, and to take the next faithful step back toward alignment. Sam Harris, in his book Lying, offers a deceptively simple thesis. Every lie, no matter how small, is a rejection of reality. And that rejection, he argues, always carries a cost. Most of us don't walk through life telling bold-faced lies, but we live surrounded by the smaller, quieter ones. I'm fine. This isn't a big deal. I'll get to it tomorrow. It's not hurting anyone. We say these things not because we're malicious, but because we want to comfort without confrontation. We want the illusion of peace without the discipline it requires. But as Harris reminds us, even white lies distort the relationship, either with others or, arguably more importantly, with ourselves. They fracture trust. They create unnecessary complexity. They force us to manage stories instead of living our truth. In internal dishonesty, the lies we whisper to ourselves are often the most corrosive. Because when you start telling yourself you're okay when you're not, when you hide your real motives behind justifications that aren't genuine, that aren't real, and when you know you're living deep down is misaligned, you slowly lose the ability to trust your own voice. Dishonesty doesn't usually feel evil. It feels like a fog. It builds in layers, each one offering short-term confusion. You stop seeing clearly, you stop showing up cleanly, you stop being someone you can believe in. Honesty then isn't about telling the truth to others. It's about building a life that can withstand being seen by others, and more importantly, by yourself. That's the quiet damage of self-deception. It's not dramatic, but steady. And this dishonesty, it doesn't stop until we name it. Honesty begins when we stop pretending, even in the smallest of ways, even when no one else is watching. To truly see something is to love it. To give attention is to offer dignity. So when we ignore the tension in our bodies, deny the misalignment in our choices, or dodge the tough conversations, we may not be lying out loud, but we are being dishonest with ourselves. Living with attention is a kind of spiritual discipline. It's the practice of facing what's true even when it's inconvenient. Jim Collins' Good to Great speaks to the Stockdale Paradox. It states you must retain faith that you will prevail while confronting the most brutal facts of your current reality. He was saying this within the context of teams, but it applies to us. To be honest with ourselves means looking squarely at the things we're avoiding. Not to beat ourselves up, but to stop pretending. Because dishonesty delays growth. It keeps us safe, sure, but stuck. Clarity is not cruelty. It's kindness with direction. Another book, Fake Work, shows how organizations stay busy while avoiding what actually moves the needle. We do the same emotionally. Repeating narratives, justifying inaction, pretending we're okay when we're not. That's emotional dishonesty. And it burns energy with no return. The real work, once again, is quieter. It's saying, I don't know. I'm scared. This isn't working. Here's what I actually want. I need help. That's where alignment starts. And alignment is where performance gets real. Dishonesty, internal or external, breaks systems. But honest feedback, once again, especially with ourselves, makes growth possible. You can't adapt to what you refuse to acknowledge. If you want to grow, perform, or lead, you have to get used to facing your own reality. And that requires a sort of internal transparency. What do I know but don't want to admit? Some say there is an adage. Tell the truth, or at the very least, don't lie. But sometimes, not lying isn't enough. We have to actively clear away the dishonest habits that form within our thinking. Every time we bypass the hard truth, we reinforce disconnections. But every time we say, this is true, even if it's hard, we reinforce our character. And character is the soil where identity grows. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. The same is true of your internal landscape. If you don't live in a sort of honest alignment with what matters, you'll live by someone else's story. We've all experienced this. We live through someone else's expectations, someone else's definition of success. Dishonesty often shows up as us doing too much, trying to be everything for everyone. But honesty creates a boundary. This is who I am. This is what I care about. And this is what I will return to again and again. I reflect on this, and lately I've been reckoning with a small, persistent lie, a form of dishonesty. I think many of us can relate. It's how I use my phone. I used to tell myself I was in control, that it was a quick check or scroll or what have you, that I could be present and connected at the same time. But if I really sat down to examine it, to look at the truth, it was preventing me from showing up in my life with integrity. I was often skimming, distracted, scattered, available to everyone and truly present for no one. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't dramatic. I'd say I was more thoughtful than most, but to my own standard and upon my own reflection, it was dishonest. And Cal Newport's writing, especially Digital Minimalism, helped me hold up a mirror. Not to shame me, but to clarify the cost of that habit. It was presence, or lack thereof, my peace, my creativity, how I show up for my family. I realized I had been outsourcing my attention and considering it normal or just not addressing it. And that was a lie. And it was a lie I didn't know I was telling. So again, I returned to David White, who wrote, "Honesty is not found in revelation or in confrontation, but in the slow testing of our intentions and the quiet strength behind our words." That's aspirational, and obviously that's the work. Not just the big, dramatic truth-telling, but the everyday return to what's real. To ask yourself, am I currently living aligned with what I claim to care most about? Where am I hiding? Because the most critically important kind of honesty is not public. It's private. It's the kind that lets you look in the mirror and say, I trust you. So try this. Choose one area of your life where something feels off. This could be your health, like me, your screen time, your friendships, your effort, your relationship with alcohol or some other substance, your use of social media. Ask, where am I avoiding the truth in those instances? Another actionable step is name the cost of the dishonesty. Be specific. What is this disconnect costing you in terms of energy, peace, relationships, or self-respect? Next, define one small shift toward alignment. Don't overhaul your entire life, just adjust. What habit or pattern could you shift today to live more honestly in the area that you're concerned about? For example, if you're distracted by your phone, maybe you start by disabling notifications or creating no phone zones. If you're neglecting your health, you commit to a daily walk or one single nourishing meal. If you're struggling in a relationship, initiate one vulnerable conversation this week. Last piece would be consistency. Revisit this weekly. Honesty isn't just a one-time declaration. It's a rhythm, it's a pattern. Revisit your audit weekly and keep asking, where am I drifting and where do I need to return? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. Start small, but start now. Start with one honest step. That's how trust gets rebuilt. That's how presence is restored. That's how we come home to who we are. And that's the kind of honesty that I believe has the potential to change a life. It's not necessarily a moral stance, a spiritual realignment. And there's no need to overhaul everything. You just need to start reflecting and returning to yourself, to the truth, to presence. That's the first honest step.